you, I think the question was asked earlier, identify a particular episode, instance where it changed in your mind that you were coaches?
Well, after the last home game, it was clear to me that it would be cruel and unusual punishment to let Ron coach another game in the Air Canada Center. I wasn't going to put him through that. And I don't fault the fans. You know, I think you buy a ticket and you want to boo, you can boo. That's fans show their emotions in many ways. They cheer, they boo. But the deadliest thing is when a fan votes with their feet and they don't come. So if you come, you want to boo, you can boo. I would obviously prefer that fans not boo, but I think you buy the ticket, that's the right you have, as long as you're not saying something racist or homophobic or obscene. You can say what you want. And but I felt at that point I wasn't going to put Ron through that again. It was hard to listen to, hard to watch. But also to me, it was clear at that point by then that the team wasn't listening. Watching the bench, they weren't paying attention, they weren't buying in, and it was time. And I think that that every coach has a shelf life. That day comes for every coach. It's like if you have a friend who lives near the airport, and he invites you over for a cookout, and you say to him, "How can you stand the noise?" And he says, "What noise?" They get used to it, and at some point, players tune out the coach. And I think the shelf life of a coach is tied directly to how hard that coach is. The harder that coach is on players, the shorter the shelf life usually is, unless you have success. And I don't like coaches who are warm and fuzzy. I want coaches who the game shouldn't be fun. And I tell our players this all the time. The fun part of a game is winning. The game itself should be a difficult contest filled with hard decisions and hard battles. And most of the reinforcement a player gets during a game is negative. Coach can't come down and say, "Hey, you just had a great shift." He's correcting somebody else who was on that shift. So most of the reinforcement you get, most of the feedback you get from a coach during the contest is negative. And I don't want it any other way. I like coaches who are hard on players. I tell players this all the time. You look at coaches who are successful in our league. They're not warm and fuzzy guys during the game. John Tortorella, he's worked for me, coached for me in the Olympics. This is not a guy that you're going to have on the bench who's going to be friendly and warm and fuzzy with the players. That's not how it works. It's not a hockey player's life. And Randy's demanding on players. And I think that Randy, I think if there's one philosophical difference or philosophical commitment that Randy and I share, I like a rough team. And I think if you can point to one thing where Ron and I were on a different page slightly, would be that. I like it a little rougher than Ron does. But that's the only part we're in disagreement on. And Ronnie likes tough players if they can play too. But with Randy, it's he's hard on the players, he's demanding, and that's the way I want it.
On that note, I just want to say, you sent the email. What time is it? Or was it yesterday morning?
No, it was yesterday afternoon. I was at the airport.
Thank you.
Were there any other candidates considered in this process?
When you do a change, you shouldn't just go with a guy that you've had success with that you're comfortable with. We went through the process. External candidates. We spent a lot of time on Mark Crawford. Mark Crawford worked for me in Vancouver and did just a marvelous job. We spent a lot of time on him. We spent a lot of time on internal candidates, Dallas Eakins, Scott Gordon, Greg Cronin, Rob Zettler. We went through the process, and this is the guy that we all felt was the one who gave us the best chance for success.
Does Francois Allaire still stick around to help the goaltenders, and what kind of effect can Randy have on the goaltending situation?
Well, Francois Allaire is not going anywhere. That's. I think we have the best goalie coach on the planet. That's not changing. Our struggles in net are not. I'm not going to change a coach because we've got two young goalies that are battling right now. That's never even been contemplated. So yeah, he's sticking around.
Brian, you're going to have to tailor the team to Randy's style, do you think?
Yeah, well, it's at some point. Not now. It's after the trade deadline. The only, we can maybe tinker with it a bit, but no, that's something for the summer.
Randy brought up on his own the Horde. You've always been good at speaking to us on a level. Ron's not a bad guy, but he rarely made that effort for whatever reason. Did that bother you? Would you prefer that someone who works for you operates a little bit more at a level like you do?
I don't. I don't have to deal with you guys every day. That's the difference between me and a head coach. Head coach has to come out and talk to the media every day. I don't. I got to field calls and emails, and I got to speak at things like this, but I don't have to deal with the group every day. And I know that all the adjectives that have been said about Ron, he's arrogant, he's this. There's none of that in his life with me. I don't see that at all. And I think it was an acquired taste here, where he got tired of dealing with the media, and his answers got shorter and maybe more caustic. And I have an easier job that way in terms of dealing with the media. I don't have to do it every day. I don't blame Ron one bit for getting in a sour relationship with the media, because that's what happens when you don't have success in the Canadian market. It happens to everybody when they deal with the media short term or on a daily basis. So, and I don't blame the media for Ron's plight. Like, the media can't get a coach fired. They can make it unpleasant at the end. They can accelerate it by a few days maybe, but a coach gets fired when he doesn't have success or when he loses the team. I don't fault the media one bit for what's happened here, but I don't blame Ron. I don't fault Ron for his view of the media either.
Brian, when you would defend Ron, you always would say that you hadn't given him the right players to give him a proper chance to succeed with this team. That obviously didn't change. How much of this do you feel falls on your shoulders?
Well, I told the players this last night. When a coach gets fired, there's plenty of blame to go around. It's easy to blame the coach. It's easy to shovel dirt on the coach. And the glee with which people have reacted to this is characteristic. There's people that, in the media that are really excited about the change because they didn't like Ron. But to me, I said to the players last night, when a coach gets fired, there's blame to be spread and attributed to everybody. So did I give them the right players quick enough? Do we have the right goaltenders? You can ask all those questions. And yes, I accept a share of the blame for this. And the players have to too. The players, in my mind, if this is a playoff caliber team, and it was 2 weeks ago, and we just made a coaching change, then everyone's got to look in the mirror and say, I'm at fault. And I'm at fault here. There's no question about it. But I also feel we've put enough assets in place that this team should be in the hunt.
Brian, in your opinion, what went wrong in the period between the time that Ron got his extension and yesterday?
It's not even Ron got his extension, I think, the first week of December. And he announced it Christmas Day, I think. But, we had done the deal several weeks before that. And we were fine even 2.5 weeks ago. We were sitting in the 8th spot up comfortably. I don't know. I've never had this before. I've never had a team fall off a cliff like this before in my life. I've had dips. I've had slumps. I've had rough patches. But this is akin to an 18-wheeler going right off a cliff. And I've never seen like it before in my life. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I've never experienced this. I was talking to Ned Colletti about this from the Dodgers yesterday. And I said, have you ever had anything like this in all your years in baseball? And he said, no. And he follows our team very closely. And he said, I'll leave the expletives out, but he said, I have no idea what's happened there. And I said, well, I don't either. I'm bewildered by it. It's like someone hit me with a 2x4. I've never had this before, where a team just plain flat out went into free fall.
Brian, one of the oldest sayings in hockey is show me a good goaltender, and I'll show you a good coach. I mean, you say you're bewildered. I've watched your hockey team all year, and to me it's simple. The goaltending hasn't been good enough.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That's your view. I think the goaltending at times has been brilliant. I think the reason we're still alive statistically is because of Jonas Gustafsson saving our ass twice during this season. I think the goaltenders have played brilliantly at times. I think even if you look at the Florida game and you say we're down 2-0 on 2 shots, what's the goalie supposed to do about those 2 shots? Is there a goalie in the league who makes one of those saves? I don't think so. So it's not just the goaltending, in my mind. And I think the goaltending is bearing a disproportionate and unfair share of the blame for where we are, because I don't think the goaltending has been as bad as people think. The other night, James Reimer allows 2 goals. You show me a goaltender in the league, Henrik Lundqvist, anybody. You show me a goaltender in the league who could stop those 2 pucks, because I don't think there is one.
Brian, is Randy's challenge in Toronto now a lot steeper than it was when he took over in Anaheim for you?
Well, I think he's got more assets to work with. You know, we were fortunate in Anaheim that Brian Murray had drafted a couple guys who really came along quicker than we planned on them, in Getzlaff and Perry, both Brian Murray drafts. But if you look at what happened in Anaheim, there's not one defenseman whose name is on the cup that was there when I got there. We rebuilt the whole defense, rebuilt a lot of the forwards, but we got, you know, the key attribute of that team, or the key development that allowed that team to win, was the emergence of those 2 young kids. Here, I think we've got assets like that in place in terms of the quality of forwards we have. We've rebuilt the defense. I think we have a good captain. So it's never the same. You know, it's never, when you take over a team, the challenges are never the same. The assets you have are never the same. But I believe that this team is capable of making the playoffs. Still, today.
What's Randy's blueprint as a coach? How would you describe him, and what are his strengths?
Clearly defined tasks. You know, that's one of the things I believe in, that a player who knows his job has a much better chance of success than a player who doesn't know his job. And on Randy's team, there's blue collar guys and there's white collar guys, and they know their jobs. That's 1. 2 is he's demanding. He's hard on players. And 3 is he likes a physical game. He likes a crude game, same as I do.